Hi, my name is Dan Brown, and I work in the Department of Animal Science at Cornell University. Most of my research work is in nutritional toxicology and in limited resource animal agriculture. Nutritional toxicology is a study of toxicants that we find in feed or food, usually of natural origin. Occasionally we get a synthetic one we look at, but mostly we study natural toxins. And in limited resource animal agriculture are systems such as you might find in third world countries, where either individual farms or whole regions might be limited in a critical resource. And also we work with some smaller farm systems here in the United States as well. Our work has taken me to Kenya, Ethiopia, Haiti. Lived in these three places. California and New York, I guess, is the 5 places I've done most of my research. In terms of teaching, right now I'm teaching a class in comparative animal nutrition and toxicology, and I help teach an introductory animal science course. In the past, I've taught nutritional toxicology, general animal nutrition, sustainable animal agriculture, and international animal agriculture. Well, I think generally, I mean, my parents were both high school science and agriculture teachers out in California, and we spent a lot of time outdoors. We spent a lot of time looking at the natural world. A typical walk just through the area where we live might involve kicking over a log and just looking whatever was under it. And that's the way most people might do that. And my parents always liked to ask us a lot of questions and keep us thinking, and they were very good scientists, and I guess they must have transferred some of that onto me. In terms of this career, like a lot of kids growing up in the 50s and 60s, one of science, a lot of times I'm at medical school or vet school or something like that. So I'm interested in actually going to medical school at one time. I started out went to college at University of California, Davis, and I went in to be a community nutrition major because I felt that learning how to feed people would be a good preparation for going to medical school. I got there, it was kind of in the bad old days, it was the early 70s, and the advisor for that major saw that I was male, decided that major wasn't for me, kicked me out. It was apparently, this was just pre-dietetics, and she didn't really like men in that major. So I went upstairs to enroll in nutritional sciences. Nobody was home, so I went across the street and enrolled as an animal science major because our family had a lot of friends over there, and it seemed like a nice home, and I'm glad I did. In terms of my career, I turned from medicine to agricultural sciences about my sophomore year. I did an internship up in the Sierra Nevada Foothill Field Station in lower elevations of the Sierras. Spent a term there doing, helping out with research and calf rearing and range management and botany and all those sorts of things. And it was just so much fun, I just couldn't imagine doing anything else after that. I mean, anytime that you can do good science and ride horses and enjoy the outdoors like that, I figured, this was definitely for me. Okay, I talked more just then about more prospective experimental science. There's also science involving description. Certainly Jane Goodall and some of the behavioral scientists in the field, they probably do test some hypotheses, but a lot of their work is describing the natural world. So that's science too. I guess it's a systematic, really empirical observations that are done, in other words, looking at what's there or seeing what's actually there, and then being systematic enough to draw valid conclusions from what you've seen. And there's all sorts of different ways of doing that, like descriptive, experimental, mixtures of the two. But there are, good science involves in asking the right questions that can be falsified and answering them with good empirical observations. And you can get information from this that's useful in applications in engineering and medicine in farming, in just life. I think if you can, well, it depends on the type of science you're doing. I mean, we tend to do more experimental science where we're testing hypotheses and we're trying to discover entirely new things. So good science involves finding out something new and doing it in a systematic way where we examine the alternatives and use both observations and instruments and statistics to decide whether or not if our hypothesis is rejected or accepted, and making progress in a, I mean, nobody's totally objective, but making progress in an objective enough way that we can defend what we found and other people can repeat what we found and move our knowledge of the world forward that way. That's good science. And that can be done in a lot of places. It can be done in the lab, it can be done in a pasture, it can be done outdoors, indoors, and if you know, the questions selected, if you're lucky or you've done a good job of selecting questions, it can also be useful information for everyday life. Well, it depends on what level the science is done. A lot of the science is done at Cornell. People are working at such a fundamental level. They're looking at what, you know, how molecules control the way DNA expresses itself and what sort of things go on there. And at first blush, you think, well, how does that put more milk in the bucket? How does that save starving children? But very often this leads to an understanding of biology that helps us choose better plants and animals to feed the world with, better medicines, better therapies, better way of following to find out if someone is ill to begin with and what might be causing it. And so, you know, that fundamental science informs other scientists as well. In terms of making things immediately useful, some of the research we're doing in Haiti and the hypothesis we state, we walk right into the problem. If the problem is a poison produced by a mold, such as the aflatoxin produced by aspergillus that we study, we go into the field, we look at the peanuts, we measure what's there, and then we try different things to control that. A certain way of sorting, we make the hypothesis that sorting in a certain manner will reduce the load that goes into the food chain. And we reject or accept the hypothesis based on what we observe. That information is immediately useful because the experimental methods of sorting that we use, we can immediately, if the people aren't doing it for us already, we can immediately transfer that within a matter of hours, if not days, from what we've done what we've done, well, once we've completed the work. Others takes more time. If we are trying to develop something that can absorb the toxin, for example, that might require laboratory work or animal studies. It would take a little more time. And then that information can be made available a variety of different ways. One is can just be published and saying, hey, go out, get this stuff and do it. Other scientific discoveries are actually patented and then marketed through either private or public company, and they're able to distribute it that way. A lot of the science produced at universities aren't always set up to go out and sell the products of their science, so they have help from either governmental or private companies or corporations that can put this stuff out there more efficiently, and then we can get back to the lab or the field or the barn and come up with more information.